Welcome to Hood Champion Boxing and Sports. Let's continue. Shields versus Scott, episode 4, parts 2 through 4. Now, there's a lot of talk going on right now with Kaye Scott and Claressa Shields, and I'm surprised. More and more people are starting to feel Kaye Scott has a chance. This is her road to the championship, man. You may say, well, she's already a unified champion. Nah, her being Claressa Shields, it's a different type of championship she's fighting for. All right, she already has the 2 belts, but we all know who the real champ is, the person who has the bigger name, the bigger following, the person that the whole world knows. Doesn't mean that they're fans of Claressa. They just know her, and they know she can fight. But what's interesting is Kaye Scott, she's used to being the underdog because she went from being an underdog to a unified champion. See, every champion has a defining moment. For some, it comes early. For others, it takes years of setbacks, adjustments, perseverance before everything finally comes together. In Kaye Scott, her pro career wasn't built on hype. You know what I'm saying? It was built on patience. She wasn't one of these highly touted prospects who received favorable matchmaking, heavy promotion. Nah, she entered the pro ranks knowing every fight had to count. So she didn't have the luxury of slowly building a record over 10 to 15 fights. Time wasn't on her side. She had to seize every single opportunity, and she learned with the quickness when she turned pro. Now, of course, when she turned pro, she carried years of amateur experience, but she just didn't have a lot of professional seasoning. You know what I'm saying? And she noticed the differences. You know, she had to have more patience in a pro fight, had to go to the body, longer stretches of tactical thinking. You know, it wasn't about just like winning short exchanges and throwing a bunch of combinations, kind of like Amir Khan. She had to break opponents down over several rounds. So the adjustments came naturally because of her ring intelligence. Now, as far as learning professional timing, there's a lot of people who still struggle with that, you know, because you got the amateur style and the pro style. And in pro boxing, timing is everything, you know. Professionals don't always fight at full speed. Sometimes the smartest fighter throws fewer punches while landing the cleaner, harder shots. Judges are watching that. So with Kaye Scott, she learned to slow the pace, set traps, work behind the jab, attack the body, save energy for the championship rounds, which is going to be critical in her fight with Claressa Shields. So those adjustments helped to transform her from an accomplished amateur into an increasingly complete pro, which they're hoping is going to transform her from just being a unified champion at 160 to becoming one of the faces of women's boxing. She may be the face for one night if she beats Claressa for a month or for 2 months, because that's all everyone's going to talk about. But the reality is she closed the talent gap. But what version of Claressa Shields is she going to get? They're hoping for a weight drain Claressa Shields, but we won't know until fight night. You see, Kaye Scott, every fight for her was like a job interview. This fight against Claressa Shields, the same thing. She didn't have Olympic fame. She didn't have major promotional backing. She had to earn respect the old-fashioned way. You know what I'm saying? Every single performance became an audition. She always felt like she was being evaluated. As a result, getting those victories, it helped to convince promoters she deserved bigger opportunities. So every round demonstrated she belonged amongst the world's best middleweights. That's how she got this opportunity to fight Claressa Shields. And that's the same way she got the first major opportunity. Eventually, she received her chance to compete for significant championships. These fights represented years of sacrifice finally paying off. World title opportunities, they don't just land at your feet, especially when you enter the pro ranks later in life like Kaye Scott did. So she understood what was at stake, and she did the business, you know? But she learned to handle adversity. Because it doesn't matter if you enter the pro ranks later or you enter it early. Doesn't matter. No championship journey is perfect. It's going to be tough fights, close rounds, adjustments become necessary. Champions aren't remembered because everything went according to plan. They're remembered because you find solutions when things go wrong. And that's what Kaye Scott did. She continued improving after every challenge, and she's in training camp right now, improving and improving and improving. So instead of becoming discouraged, she became more complete. You know what I'm saying? And that's why now here she is, a unified champion. Everything led to the biggest night of her career. She picked up that WBC, WBA middleweight championship. I believe she fought, middleweight. It changed everything. All them years of amateur competition, years of training, believing in herself. Now she had championship gold. And that victory transformed Scott from respected contender into a division champion. And they feel that that victory that transformed her to accomplish those things is going to be what helps to motivate her going up against Claressa Shields, because she wants to feel that again. And although the title's on the line at Kaye Scott's, this is the biggest fight, bigger than championship fights, for her to get in there and clip Big Whoa. And for many fans, shut Big Whoa's mouth. You see, the boxing world, see, like they're taking notice of Kaye Scott now. They took notice. Once she won that championship, they said, damn, what's going on here? It changed the perception of Kaye Scott. She was being overlooked. All of a sudden, her career, people paying attention. More media coverage, interview requests grow, new opportunities appear, and most importantly, champions attract other champions. So winning those belts placed Scott directly in the conversations involving the biggest names in women's boxing. Winning titles changes everything. It changes everything. So she became the hunter's target. You know what I'm saying? And this is my thing when I watch Kaye Scott. That's why I'm like, yo, she's so quiet, but she has come out and chirped up a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like, I think she's realizing that winning titles changes everything. Before becoming champion, you chase everyone else. But after becoming a champion, everyone begins chasing you. And now she had Big Whoa chasing behind her. And she knows they've sparred together. And Big Whoa has studied her style. And now Big Whoa is dreaming of taking her belts. So Kaye Scott has learned that as a champion, I'm not going to get easy fights. I have hungry opponents. And there's no opponent out here in women's boxing that's more hungry than Claressa Shields. Because Claressa Shields' back is against the corner. She can't lose. She ain't supposed to lose to Kaye Scott. So once Scott became unified champion, one matchup immediately stood above all others. You know what I mean? And that's the matchup that's in front of her right now. Big Whoa, Claressa Shields. Man, please. She's the most... Look, everyone has an opinion, but let's just... For the sake of this conversation, she's the most accomplished female boxer of her generation. One champion, one challenger, one opportunity to define an entire career. Suddenly, Kaye Scott, she's not out here simply defending titles. She's preparing for the biggest event of her life. And that's what it is. She didn't become a champion by an accident. You know what I'm saying? There's certain tools needed to consistently win rounds. Now, she doesn't have overwhelming punching power. That's why she doesn't have knockouts. She doesn't have blazing hand speed, but she has intelligence. You know what I mean? She thinks before she attacks. Now, depending on her not being instinctive in that ring could be problematic in the first 3 rounds because Claressa's explosive. But we're not so sure about that Big Whoa weight cut. This is why we think if she's in there and she's thinking before she attacks, and she can survive the first 2 or 3 rounds. Now she's watching Claressa's tendencies. She's seeing the mistakes she's making. Claressa's overconfident. Next thing you know, she finds openings rather than forcing exchanges, and then she times her, bing. And now Claressa's frustrated just like the other frustrators have become frustrated. You see, it's all about movement, man. Scott understands distance exceptionally well, and Claressa knows that. That's why she gives her so much respect. Because she knows, she'll say, yeah, Kaye Scott can't beat me, but she can fight. Because Kaye Scott put the bing-bings on her. When has Claressa given anybody any credit? She called everybody bums. Hey, all bums, man. Man, please. She don't give anybody no damn credit. Because I tell you what, I watch Kaye Scott's fights, and I have looked and I'm like, oh, Lord have mercy. Claressa will have a field day with this. But I'll tell you this, without being so emotional and dramatic, she rarely stands directly in front of opponents for extended periods. She'll circle away from the power, and Claressa doesn't have any. She'll change angles. She'll reset after combinations. She'll make opponents restart their offense. So good footwork reduces unnecessary punishment. And watch for that jab because her hands are looking faster than ever. And her jab isn't just a jab to just throw out there. It's a measured distance to interrupt rhythm, score points, create openings for the right hands, and prevent opponents like Claressa Shields, who's going to just come rushing forward. And Claressa's not going to be comfortable doing that because she's going to meet that Aussie, oi, 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 bing, bing, bing jab all up in her mouth, all up in her mouth. So against elite competition, the jab becomes one of boxing's most valuable weapons, and it is the most important punch. And she's going to put that all up in Claressa's face and mouth, and she's going to need to. She got the height and reach advantage. So get in there, be the big woman, be the big dog, be the champion. You see, Claressa's going to be relying a lot on her athleticism, but Scott relies on decision making. She understands when to attack, when to clinch, when to slow the pace, when to increase pressure. So championship boxing often comes down to making better decisions than your opponent. And I think if she clinches Claressa, she'll control and push her around the ring. If you ask Claressa tell you she benched 315 pounds. Man, please, I'm in the gym, 175 pounds, bench 315 pounds. Steak and potato diet. Shit. We know she wasn't benching on 315. I don't even think she was benching at 185 and shit. But one thing I do know is Scott doesn't just throw punches like Claressa. You know what I'm saying? She's looking to return fire. So with her defense, guard discipline, small head movement, smart positioning, controls exits after combinations, she blocks exit routes. So when you watch Kaye Scott fight, she has these habits that reduce unnecessary risk. And she has championship patience. And this is one mistake many challengers make against elite fighters, becoming impatient. She's not going to make that mistake against Claressa Shields. She knows. She's not going to go in there and foolishly chase Claressa around the ring and become impatient, hoping to create something that's not there, not available. She got boxing ability. She got boxing IQ. She's going to remain composed under pressure. You know what I mean? But what I want to see, Claressa's going to probably target the head. I don't see Claressa going to that body. She coming out looking for a knockout. She going to go for the head. And Scott knows that opponents are going Claressa as an opponent is going to try to exploit certain things. But Kaye Scott has areas that she likes to exploit as well. She knows Claressa is going to come and bring that pressure. You know what I mean? She said Claressa is going to try to force an exchange. I'm not going to do that. Cut the ring off. I'm going to throw whatever combination I need. If Claressa's coming, I'm throwing a right hand hook and rolling out. I'm going to increase the pace when I need to. And then I'll slow it down by clinching if she tries to increase the pace. And I'm just not going to let anybody box comfortably because I got this magnificent Australian jab that I'm putting all up in her mouth. All up in her mouth. So, can somebody consistently execute a strategy to beat Kaye Scott? Well, I think it depends on the conditioning and discipline. Claressa may not have the conditioning, and she lacks a lot of discipline in the ring because she gets wild when she gets excited. And believe you me, if she's in there getting tired and Kaye Scott is starting to get some momentum, Claressa's going to go all out. She's going to go all out. She's just going to be that man just swinging, free swinging. All the skill gets thrown out the window because she's going to panic. Because she's going to be somewhere she's never been. And that's why, what's her name? Kaye Scott's style, it matters against Claressa Shields. The big vote, the big vote, a.k.a. man, please. Against Claressa Shields, technical mistakes become very, very, very expensive. So for Kaye Scott, she can't just outwork Shields. She got to try to outthink her. And you say, ain't no way she's going to be able to outthink her. She's got a team. She's got a team. If they're planning right, they can get in there and they can win the battle of distance. They can win the battle of timing. They can win the battle of positioning. If the fight becomes chaotic, most analysts believe it favors Shields. That's what Shields wants. She wants chaos in the ring. But if Scott can stay behind that jab, remain tactical, she has a better opportunity to showcase her strengths. It's like Vernon Forrest and Shane Mosley. Shane Mosley was fast. He would get a little bit wild at times. Shit, Forrest stayed technical. Jab, right hand. And then great things happen. You know what I'm saying? So can Kaye Scott pull off one of the biggest upsets in women's boxing? I mean, it's the mind of the underdog, man. Underdog's been shocking the world for a long time. It's not because they're stronger, not because they're faster. They just believe, and Kaye Scott believes in herself. She knows majority of people are predicting Claressa Shields wins. So that reality can be a burden, or it becomes freedom. I think Kaye feels free. She's like, fuck it, I ain't got nothing to lose. I'm different. They expect me to lose. So the pressure's on Claressa. Plus, she coming down the weight. I ain't got to do nothing but sit out here and keep being glamour. Glamour Kaye Scott. So let the pressure shift her way. That allows me to perform at my best. I'm motivated. Every interview, every prediction, every betting line, every headline favoring Claressa Shields has done nothing but fuel me. You know what I'm saying? This doubt, this doubt ain't nothing but motivation. Big Kaye Scott knows she has an opportunity to transform outside skepticism into internal determination. And I'm telling you, she's got it. I think she got it. Will she do the job? I don't know. But I think she got enough to pull it off. But it ain't gonna be easy. But Claressa has to cooperate in order for Kaye Scott to win. But there's some keys to an upset. If Scott hopes to defeat Big Quote, man, please, several things likely need to happen. She's got to control the pace. She's got to win the jab battle and avoid prolonged exchanges. But that jab battle is extremely important. She got to stay disciplined defensively, finish every round strongly, and really weather that storm in the first 2 or 3 rounds. But as long as she maintains her conditioning, shit. After round 3, I'd say 4 on, you get into them championship rounds, she may have something here, people. But remember, I'm not saying she need to go carry a rabbit's foot, cross her fingers, cross her legs, cross the street, hot cross buns, fucking, call the Red Cross. I'm not saying that. Upsets rarely happen through luck. How about that? Cross your eyes. I mean, the upset's going to happen through execution. And it starts in training camp. Physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, she got to be dialed in. So the bottom line, every champion begins as someone people underestimated. Scott has spent much of her career proving doubters wrong. Now she faces the biggest challenge of all. So can she do it one more time? We're going to find out. So whether Kaye Scott defeats Big Whoop or not, her journey represents one of persistence rather than instant fame. She didn't arrive through massive promotional campaigns. She didn't rely on Olympic celebrity. She earned her opportunity through years of development, international amateur competition, technical improvement, and a determination to keep pursuing world championships, despite entering the pro ranks later than most elite fighters. So the story alone makes her one of the most compelling figures in this matchup. Now, that being said, I'm going to look to do episode 5 maybe tomorrow. But don't sleep on Kaye Scott, because I just have a feeling the whole world going to be in for the shock of their life when she gets in there with Claressa and makes the fight competitive. Does she win? She has a chance. But we all know Claressa should be the favorite. But Claressa's has some very bad habits. Ballooning up in weight, eating unhealthy foods, drinking and smoking. And I'm not making that shit up. Those things come back to haunt you. Is this Kaye Scott's time? We're going to find out when I do episode 5 and I break down the pressure fighter versus the technician. Y'all keep cool. I'm in the breeze.